England's Ashes hopes on the line at Headingley today. Anything other than a victory in these next few days will see Australia retain the famous urn. Let's rejoin James Savundra, who's there for us with a special guest once again. James.
Yes, Pete, less than an hour to go until the toss here at Headingley, a game that England simply have to win if they want to stand any chance of winning this summer's Ashes. I'm delighted to be joined by former England captain Michael Atherton. Michael, there really is no room for error now for Ben Stokes and his side.
Absolutely. We're only 2 test matches in, but with Australia having won the first 2 and they hold the Ashes, that's the key thing. So England have got to win. There's no more room for error, no more mistakes that they can make. They've got to win all 3 games. It's going to be very difficult.
Things could be quite hostile for the Aussies, bearing in mind what happened on the final day at Lord's. What impact do you think what happened with Johnny Bairstow will have on this test and maybe the relationship between the 2 sides as well?
Well, I think you're right, first of all. It's going to be quite a hostile atmosphere. It often is here at Headingley anyway, but when you take into account what happened 2 or 3 days ago and how that game finished, I think that the Yorkshire crowd are going to get right behind England in an even more vocal way, if that's possible. How it will affect relationships between the 2 teams, I don't think that will change, to be honest. I think what it will do to England is just sharpen them up. You know, I was of the opinion that Johnny Bairstow was a bit dozy, wandering out of his ground, and in a way that was symptomatic of some of the cricket England have played. They played some very good cricket over 2 test matches, but they've also given away 118 extras. They've dropped 10 catches. So they've just not been quite sharp enough. This is Ashes cricket and you've got to be sharp.
England have made 3 changes for this test match. Ollie Pope, of course, out with a dislocated shoulder. Mark Wood gets his first appearance in a test this year. Chris Woakes hasn't played a test in England for 2 years. What do you make of the lineup which Ben Stokes has decided upon?
Well, it's a bit of a gamble because they're going with the extra bowler, but that's partly because I think Stokes' knee is hurting. He bowled that long 12-over spell at Lord's, and I think that you know took it out of him. Whether he might bowl here, but he's not going to bowl a lot, so they wanted 5 bowlers. But as you say, Mark Wood's not played since April. Chris Woakes hasn't played for a year. Moeen Ali has had that finger problem. And then you've got Robinson and Broad who are backing up back-to-back test matches after 3 days. So I think the big plus for England is Mark Wood. If he's fully fit, and fingers crossed that he is, and he must be because they've picked him, then I watched him yesterday bowl so quick. And he is the fastest bowler on either side by a distance, actually. He's going to come flying in. And I think it looks the hardest pitch of the 3 as well. It's going to be the paciest pitch. So I think Wood's inclusion is a big plus for England. He did shake up 1 or 2 of the Australian batters in the last series down under, where he was England's best player in that series, arguably. Certainly their best bowler, or the bowler that kept coming in. And therefore I think his return is a big thing for the team here.
And when it comes to the batting order, Ben Stokes said it was quite a simple decision to move Harry Brook up to 3, Johnny Bairstow back at 5, where he was so successful last summer. What do you make of that decision to not bring in Dan Lawrence and to move Brook up to 3?
Well, Dan Lawrence is not playing because they wanted to play the extra bowler because of Stokes' injury. So in that sense, it's not a reflection on Dan Lawrence, but more a reflection on the balance of the side. But it's true to say that had Lawrence played, he'd be more suited to the lower middle order, 4, 5, 6. And therefore they've got to look for somebody to bat 3 in the absence of Pope. Obvious candidates were Root, who's the best player in the team, but doesn't want to be moved from 4. You can't give it Bairstow or Stokes. They've got too much on their plate as wicketkeeper and captain. And therefore what they've done is push Harry Brook up to number 3. Now, we don't know how he's going to go. He's batted there 13 times for Yorkshire, only scored 100, average low 20s. But that's misleading because that was before his kind of great run of form last year. He's a very, very good player. And what number 3 might do is sharpen his instincts as well. He was a bit indulgent at Lord's the way that he got out in the first innings there. And this playing against a new ball, a top-class attack, on his home ground, of course, may just sharpen him up.
Now, a lot of talk about England's bold, attacking, aggressive approach in the first 2 tests. Do they need to have a bit more nuance to Bazball? Does there need to be a bit more streetwise cricket at times, as the Australians have done in the last 2 test matches?
Well, that was always my view of what Bazball was. It was sure to take the game on and be aggressive, but also be smart and recognise that there are opportunities and times when you have to just suck it up a little bit and absorb some pressure. And I think they slightly got away from that at Lord's, particularly when they were 188 for 1 in the first innings. That was the time to really nail the game with Nathan Lyon off and the sun shining. But teams won't get it right all the time, and young players, and some of them are young players, are not going to get it right all the time. I think you have to allow teams leeway to make mistakes and try and improve. They've still pushed Australia pretty hard in those first 2 games, and the margins of victory have been quite narrow.
Todd Murphy comes in, makes his Ashes debut. Really impressive in India. Only 7 first-class matches before he made his Australian debut. But England are going to come at him hard, as they did do with Nathan Lyon.
They will. He's a good bowler, but he's not Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon, 500 Test wickets or thereabouts, and 100 Test matches. All that experience to draw on when batters are coming at him. So I think you'll see very much that to be England's approach here. They'll recognise that Todd Murphy is a good spinner. They won't take him lightly. But as you say, inexperienced at this level and at first-class level, really, and an opportunity to try and put some pressure on him in his first Ashes Test match.
Now, it's a landmark Test match for Steve Smith, 100 Australian Tests, and it's been quite a remarkable career. When you look at the numbers, he could break even more records here this week. I mean, when you look at his legacy, he'll go down as one of the all-time greats with what he's achieved already.
Absolutely. His numbers, well, in terms of Test match batting, I think he's second behind Bradman or something with his average. So his numbers brook no argument, really, and speak to the Australians to try and put him in context as an Australian player, and they're putting him right up there, you know, as the next, alongside Greg Chappell, Ricky Ponting, those guys who are just a notch down from Bradman. So he is absolutely one of the greats of the game, and it's a big occasion for him.
And finally, I saw you out there having a look at the wicket. The last 2 wickets have been a little bit slow. What are you expecting from this surface? Overcast conditions. England didn't take advantage of those Lords. They need to here if they bowl first.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if both sides bowl first. I think England will certainly bowl first. The last 5 tests here have been won by the side batting last. It's not so much that the ball darts around everywhere, although it is reasonably green at the moment. It's that the pitch doesn't really deteriorate, and it's quite good for batting last. So I think England will definitely bowl, and if they do, watch out when Mark Wood's got the ball in his hand.
A daunting prospect for the Australian openers. Mark Wood at the top of his run-up. We can't wait for it all to get underway, and Sky's coverage gets underway at 10 a.m. for this 3rd test here at Headingley.
Not long now. Thanks ever so much, James.